Daytona Speedweeks used to be so special because back in the day, you would have like less than 2 weeks of Daytona preparations for the great American race, the Daytona 500. Not only that, you would get some more races like IROC back in the day when they were a racing series. You would get some ARCA racing alongside with the old Budweiser Shootout, the Clash, and then Daytona 500 qualifying the week before the Daytona 500. And then there'll be a bunch of practice sessions and then truck practice, Busch, Nationwide, Xfinity sessions, and then you get the dual races, and then more practice for the 500, then trucks, then more practice, then Xfinity, then final practice, I think, and then the Daytona 500. So basically less than 2 weeks of not only Daytona 500 preparations, but also 2 weeks of action, basically, for stock car racing. And unfortunately, these days, Daytona Speedweeks does not have that much aura, and it feels less special these days with the way the schedule is. Nowadays, you'd be lucky to have at least 5 days of Daytona 500 preparations or 4 days. Luckily, we would get at least one practice session before Daytona 500 qualifying takes place later that night. It just doesn't feel that special. I feel like NASCAR doesn't treat their biggest weekend of the year to kick off the season that special. I can understand when time goes on, things change for better or for worse. These days, the Clash is not in Daytona. As of this video, they're in Bowman Gray. And then a week later, the Super Bowl takes place. There's nothing they can do about that. Not only that, not only the scheduling doesn't make it as exciting or meaningful, but I feel like the aura in general for Daytona racing is just not there comparing to like what it was back then. Nowadays, it's just crapshooty. It should be an honor to race in Daytona, whether it's ARCA, trucks, O'Reilly, or the Daytona 500. I feel like they don't take it really seriously anymore because you would get some racing, long racing most of the time, and the next thing you know, late in the race, you get a bunch of crapshoots and green-white-checkereds. When it comes to Daytona 500 qualifying, I don't like that they're doing 2 rounds to set the grid for the dual races. Why can't we go back to 1 round? Make it simple. Prepare, qualify, do your 2 laps at Daytona. That's it. Wait for Thursday's dual race. And as for the dual racing, yes, thankfully we do get go or go homers. But the problem is that the way everything is when it comes to open cars, charters, guaranteed spots, championship provisionals, all those things, it doesn't really make it exciting and it doesn't really feel that earned whenever you get a provisional or something like that. It does not make sense to have a bunch of chartered teams and cars automatically get in, and then you see these open cars trying to race their way and work twice as hard because they're not guaranteed, they're not locked in. They don't have these provisionals. They had to work for it. And when a chartered car crashes or has issues, they're still in the 500, while the open cars, they would have to rely on cut lines and other dual races to see if they're in or not. That's not exciting. I would like to see how they do the Indy 500 bump days, but as a dual race, nobody is safe. Everybody's endangered. It does not matter who you are. You race your way in. If you're in, great. If you didn't make it, sorry. There's always next year. I just find it ridiculous that you got these like provisionals, all this stuff. It doesn't really feel that exciting because, we know who's in. But then when it comes to drivers trying to get in, they have to work twice as hard and they got to deal with a flawed system like 2021, for example. No disrespect to Derek Cope. He's a Daytona 500 champion. But because of charters, they're in. And then you got drivers like Ty Dillon not making it to the race, for example. So for trucks, the problem with trucks these days is the lack of respect. There's no respect. It's just demolition derby monkey bullshit. Miraculously, 2025 was a great race. The only problem with trucks at Daytona is the sloppiness of demolition derby. More wrecks, less racing. Like I said, it should be an honor to race at Daytona, but they don't take it seriously because they drive like they have no brain. Speaking of which, ARCA, on the other hand, unfortunately, ARCA has its own problems compared to NASCAR. And I tried to make a video about it last year, but it didn't work out. But when it comes to ARCA Daytona specifically, it is a damn shame you get like anybody racing at Daytona. And when you got drivers like Amber Balkin ruining these races and when everybody loses their mind, it makes the series look even bad. The 2025 Daytona ARCA race, one of the worst ARCA races I've ever seen because there was just never-ending demolition derby crash fest. And it was on a big Fox, ARCA's first race on a big channel, antenna channel, not cable and all that. And it was ruined. And we had Cletus McFarland in, and he had a good race until the ARCA sloppiness continued. And it's a shame that ARCA hasn't done anything to fix that, trying to fix a reputation and also make sure like you don't have these idiots getting into the ARCA race at Daytona ruining everything. And when you have ARCA races at Daytona, like the 2023 Daytona race, oh God, I love that race. That's such a classic, one of my favorite ARCA races of all time. There was a bunch of racing, less silly stuff. A lot of people were racing their hearts out. Why can't we get more of that? I wish driver standards were a thing as well. If you're driving like an idiot, park it. And if we come to the O'Reilly Series, 300 miles, it's still kind of odd that they're racing the same day as ARCA since 2021. That's whatever, I guess. But I don't have too much of an issue about it. The CW is with the O'Reilly Series. Driver standards is not that bad compared to trucks and ARCA. And then we get to the Daytona 500. I've been wanting to make a particular video about how I feel about the Daytona 500 these days, but I kept thinking about Daytona Speedweeks in general. The Daytona 500, don't get me wrong, I love Daytona Speedweeks. I would look forward to the Daytona 500 every year, no matter what I say, no matter if there's good, mid, or bad races. But when it comes to the 500 these days, it doesn't feel as special. The first reason is the start time. Why do we have to wait until 2:30 or 3 o'clock to watch the Daytona 500? It is ridiculous. What the hell are we supposed to do until 2:30 or 3? Because we got like hours and hours and hours of pre-race and all that. I hate the later start times. I hate to wait. And then also weather becomes an issue almost every single year because of the start time like this, and also Trump's attendance as well. Another thing about the Daytona 500 that is problematic is that there's just not a lot of aura. We do get good racing, but the thing is that you get some drivers ruining everything, like the Ricky Stenhouses, the Joey Loganos, etc. There's just, unfortunately, there's more green-white-checkereds in the Daytona 500 since 2004 than completing a full 500-mile distance. And speaking of not a lot of aura, is every Daytona 500 has to end at night. Let me be clear. This does bring my topic about the starting time. When you have the race end at night every single time, it does not feel that special. And it's mainly thanks to the later start times of the race, thanks to TV networks like Fox. I do miss the days when you get some races end at the daytime. When you have races end at night, at least it feels natural and not forced. But when you have it every single year, whether it's start times or because late race cautions or late race crapshoots, there's no aura of having the Daytona 500 end at night every single year. It gets boring, to be honest. And it feels forced. Like, I wish we can start the race sooner. And I wish more drivers were not driving like idiots. That way, whenever we do finish at night, it doesn't feel forced. It's not like an every single year thing, and so on. And another thing, like I said about green-white-checkereds, the problem with green-white-checkers of the 500 is that you go over 500 miles scheduled advertised distance. You go over that. Not only that, it takes longer to end the race, not only for the distance, but also the TV broadcasting. We just want to see the best Daytona 500 races as possible and have some good racing and a little bit of controversy, no controversy, all those things. Of course, the TV networks like Fox, they need to stop being so shitty. But I know that won't happen because it's NASCAR on Fox. And the thing is that the Daytona 500 broadcasting on Fox is the only time you'll get like good coverage for NASCAR. The rest of the year, forget it. I hate that there's front stretch interviews in a big old 2026. That's a fucking joke. That's stupid. Doesn't feel exciting. No aura. I can go on about this. I feel like one of the reasons why it doesn't feel as special these days because you have a little bit of time to prepare for those big races for those 4 series. I'm not saying Daytona Speedweeks is not special. I'm not saying there's no aura for Daytona Speedweeks or Speed Days. I'm not saying there's no excitement for those races. There is. But comparing to back in the day, it just doesn't feel like it. I try to get excited, but it does get hard. I just wish with the way things are as of now with NASCAR, if you're going to do like a week of preparations, I wish Daytona Speed Week would at least kick off the day after the Super Bowl around Monday or Tuesday whenever the Fox teams are there for Daytona. I don't know. There's a lot of ideas I can think of to make Daytona Speed Week special again. I want to see longer practice sessions. I want to see one-round qualifying formats. I know this won't happen, but I would like to see the dual races nobody being safe. There's no guaranteed spots on that. I know that won't happen. Just at least 3 practice sessions for the Daytona 500, whether it's like an hour and a half or 2 hours or something like that. I wish driver standards were a thing for all 4 series. That way we get less crapshoot races and moments. And I wish the broadcastings were better, except for CW. The CW did a good job with their debut. I just hope at some point in the future, let's just say if NASCAR does become great again, I wish they can treat Daytona Speedweeks and the Daytona 500 like it's a big deal. So that's what I think. Something I've been thinking about for a while. Of course, because this is unscripted, I'm not going to do a good job on these kind of videos. So yeah. If you guys were to make Daytona Speedweek special again, with the way everything is these days, what would you guys do? Tell me in the comments below. And unfortunately, this is the final Daytona Speed Days, and the final Daytona 500 being on President's Day weekend, thanks to football. So enjoy while it lasts, because we're not going to get it back. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. My name's Ian, and I talk about racing. Signing off. Goodbye, everybody, and regardless of what I say, enjoy Daytona.